Oh my goodness. So clearly we're in for quite a year if we've got this many magistrates on our cards.
It sounds like a Roman disaster already.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What is going on?
I know. Anywho, so basically we've got this situation, right, where war is clearly on the horizon because you can't just ignore the fact that 4 of your ambassadors just had their heads cut off.
It is awkward, but to ignore it would make it worse.
Yeah, you can't ignore the murder. So, fortunately, there is no conflict over the issue of the levy because the plebeians and the tribunes are sensible enough this time around, Dr. G, to know that Rome needs to come together. They need to unite because that's the only way they're going to be able to deal with the Etruscans.
Ah, yes, because Lars Tolumnius is still on the scene.
Yeah. So basically, they don't oppose the introduction of consuls, hence perhaps why we have the return to the consuls rather than military tribunes with consular power. Although, that's if we go with our sources' understanding of what those things mean. As we've highlighted before, it would actually kind of make sense to have military tribunes with consular power right now if you're facing a war.
Yeah, it would be a good idea.
But
Part of the military the military tribunes with consular power, part of the deal is trying to navigate wars on multiple fronts where 2 consuls are just not enough. And as far as we're aware at the moment, there is only one point of external conflict, and that's with they and what's going on with King Lars.
Yes,
and the way he stirred up Fidenae, apparently.
Yeah. Now, we should note, of course, as I was kind of hinting when you were going through the magistrates, one of our consuls being called Lucius Sergius Fidenas. Well.
Fidenas is it's
the
foreshadowing.
Name, the name seems to be something that he might earn a bit later, perhaps. Okay, so or something going on there because this particular conflict, I think, is what gives him that title. I'll return to that later, perhaps. Yeah. So anyway, the Senate obviously know that Rome is in a very difficult situation. So even though we've just had consuls being elected and the plebeians being okay with that and the tribunes being okay with that, time for a dictator. Ooh. Yes, we're going to do it straight away, and that's where we get Mamercus Aemilius coming in.
So, what's the dictator for?
Well, because Rome is in a state of crisis because their ambassadors were just butchered.
Right.
Foreign territory.
And the consuls are not going to be enough to deal with that?
I think that's the sense here. I think that's the sense, that this is something... I mean, it's not just... Also, we should probably remember why they went to Fidenae in the first place. One of their colonies has taken off. They've gone to Veii, so...
They've scarpered, as it were.
Yeah.
Stop right there. Fidenae's like lifting up its skirts. I'm heading towards Veii. I'll see you later.
Yeah, so I think just everything. It's all a bit much. So they decided that they need to have a dictator, which of course means we need to have a master of the horse, which is where we get Cincinnatus, who is introduced to us as being a young man worthy of his father, which predisposes me to dislike him immediately. Yeah, anyway, so the consuls, of course, help out here. They decide that they're going to, levy the troops, and they make sure that they include some veteran centurions amongst the number. Guess they think they're going to be facing quite the fight here, which is a fair call. The Etruscans are very powerful at this point in time. Yeah, absolutely. So, Dictator Mamercus orders Titus Quintius Capitolinus and Marcus Fabius Bibulanus to be his lieutenants, and that's where they come into the story here.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're going to be serving underneath him, and of course, they're from pretty elite clans. They've got the connections.
There's some pedigree
Fabulous Fabians, having...
Hard to resist a fabulous Fabian.
Exactly, yes. So, got a bit of pedigree going on here. Now, what Livy points out here is that when the right man is chosen to be dictator of Rome, and when that position, so high and mighty, is united with that correct man, well, there's no one that can stand in Rome's way. That's just the way it works.
Oh.
The position is elite. The man is elite. Such a marriage in heaven. Yeah. So, anyway, that's just, I think, a bit of a hint about where this is all going, about how it's all going to go for Rome, but,
Livy's got his narrative knickers in a twist.
Yeah, exactly. So, as a result, the Romans carry all before them, Dr. G. They're able to push the enemy right out of their territory, across the Anio River.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's looking pretty good for them. The enemy, scarpering, withdrawing to their camp, like okay, and they end up setting themselves up on the hills between Fidenae and the Anio.
Right.
Okay, and they don't really come down into the plains until the forces of the Faliscians had come along to help them. Okay, so they're like ensconced there. Then the Etruscans come along and they decide to set up their camp next to the walls of Fidenae.
Fair enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Aren't they friends now?
Well, yes, exactly, yeah. Now, the
Makes
Roman
sense.
dictator also went back to his camp at this point in time, so he's sitting there pondering. Mamercus, Mamercus, Mamercus.
What next?
What next, exactly. And so he's obviously deciding, I know what's going to be next. Another battle for another day. We will prepare to fight the next day. But not everyone feels the same way about this plan to just keep on keeping on.
Wait a minute, but isn't this the whole plan? This is literally the only plan that they've got.
Well, yes, you know, but these Faliscians are kind of restless because they're away from their home territory and they're feeling, pretty confident, okay, pretty ready for things. They're definitely keen to, get right back into things here. But the people of Veii and Fidenae, they want to take a slower approach, okay? They think, you know what, time might be on our side here, okay? So King Tolumnius thinks, you know what, I agree with my fellow people here. I think that slow and steady might win the race here against the Romans, okay? I mean, they're clearly raring to go, okay?
We wouldn't want to give them the satisfaction.
Yeah. However, I think he feels a bit emasculated because he's got these Faliscians. Such a weird name for people. And I think he feels like it'd be embarrassing for him not to just go right into it, not to launch straight ahead.
Lars, this is how you lose.
I know. Yeah, so he didn't want to obviously lose their faith. He doesn't want them to go back home and be like, you know what, if you're not going to use us, we're just going to go back home. Because they clearly want to go back home. They're not enjoying this little holiday of theirs. So he decides he is going to fight the very next day. Okay. Now, meanwhile, the Romans and their dictator are feeling very positive because somehow they seem to know that there's some hesitation amongst the enemy about what it is that they're going to be doing. Okay. So the Romans start threatening that they're going to attack the camp, that they're going to attack the city of Fidenae if the enemy doesn't enter battle. So they're going to bring the battle to them if they are reluctant to fight or something like that. Okay. So Romans posturing. So the armies face out. The armies march out and they are facing off against each other. Now, Veii has sent across some extra men and they've dispatched a particular party across the mountains to attack the Roman camp during the fighting. Clever. Yeah. Because presumably then the Romans, attention would be diverted and they'd have to split their forces to defend their camp. Okay. So basically,
classic move.
Yeah. What we've got therefore is the enemy troops. We've got Veii on the right wing. We've got the Faliscians on the left wing, and we've got the people from Fidenae right in the centre. So our dictator, Mamercus, he decides that he's going to advance on the right and take on the Faliscians. Capitolinus is going to be sent against the people of Veii on the left.
Okay, so one of the senior legates.
Yes, absolutely. And then we have Master of the Horse, Cincinnatus, son of the famous, Cincinnatus Jr., He's going to be attacking the people from Fidenae right in the centre.
All right,
so this is the scene. Everything falls quiet. It's eerie. The Etruscans are holding back, seemingly not wanting to fight unless their hand is forced. The dictator is looking back towards the citadel in Rome, Yeah, that's right. Because the augurs had assured him that they would send a signal.
I was going to say, there has to be a sign of birds at this point, doesn't there?
Letting him know that everything was looking good according to the heavens.